Hello, welcome to another episode of Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, and today we are talking about My Hero Academia chapter 362. And oh boy, was this a chapter! It was a chapter of manga, and stuff happened, and explosions, and heroes, and rising up to the occasion. They're going against a bad guy who's just ripping everybody apart. And I am Jason Hahn, here to talk about it. I could talk about it by myself, but that wouldn't be nearly as interesting. So I've got a couple other buddies. We're all a bunch of Screen Rant writers. I write a lot of video game related stuff, but I'm a huge manga fan. And I got a couple other buddies here with me today that write some amazing stuff in the comics section. And we're all fans of My Hero Academia and very excited to talk about it. So I'll shut up and let them introduce themselves. Ben, how are you today, man?
I'm doing very good. Well, I'm doing pretty good today. This chapter, we'll get into it, but put a bit of a roller coaster of emotions into my day. But I'm Ben. I'm a comics writer at Screen Rant. I write about comics, mainly manga and also DC and Marvel comics. And if I talk more, I'm just gonna dive into the chapter. So, anyone else want to introduce themselves?
Go for it, Steven.
Yeah, no, my name's Steven. I've been writing for the comics section for a while now, mostly doing manga, a lot of Sonic. Was doing a good amount of Beast Wars before IDW lost licenses to it. But that's not what we're here to talk about, is it? We're talking about My Hero Academia, so very excited to talk about it.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you guys want to hear a whole IDW podcast from Steve.
Oh, man.
Carlyle, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. This has been a incredible summer for manga chapters, and this is certainly going to be one of them.
Oh, absolutely. I think the last few chapters for My Hero Academia have kind of gotten it to... for me, My Hero Academia either has just like, oh, that chapter was okay, it's moving things along, to, oh man, that just wasn't fun to read, to, oh my god, that was awesome. And those last few chapters have been in that later category. But to kind of go back to what Ben said, yeah, this chapter hit you right in the heart. It was, oh boy, yes. You'll see what I did there if you've read it. Hopefully you've read it.
Yeah, please do not listen any farther. If you have not read this chapter. I don't know why you would, but just don't do it. Go read it and come back.
Oh, we're going to spoil the crap out of the newest chapter of My Hero Academia, so please be caught up on the series before jumping into really any of these podcasts. We love talking spoilers. The fan sub is out, and we are... Oh boy, this is still very fresh. It just came out a couple hours ago, and I love how the chapter, and especially the cliffhanger of 361, made it seem like, oh man, Suneater's going to get a lot of focus on this chapter, and it kind of finally, in my opinion. Like, Suneater's always been one of those characters that, I mean, during the Overhaul arc, he had a pretty decent fight, but we haven't really seen him, like, transcend to like his maximum, and I feel like we got that with a giant Kamehameha blast that somehow happens when you combined a bunch of animals together. I won't ask the questions, I'll just marvel at the pretty panels and stuff. But none of that worked. I mean, it would have been very anticlimactic if the laser was just like, oh man, Shigaraki's down. Cool. Well, let's go over to the other battlefield. They just keep hitting Shigaraki with so many things, and weird, it's like he keeps regenerating or something. But they don't really have another choice at this point. However, after that all didn't work out, my man Bakugo did exactly what I was hoping he was doing. He was reading the battle and thinking how he can come in and attack, and we didn't necessarily get a Super Saiyan form, but we did get a really cool new version of his power that I was really hoping for. Like, I was just hoping he was going to pull out all the stops and pull something out of his pocket that he's been working on, and you guys can definitely help explain it a little bit better for me, but at the end of it, I just love the parallels between, like, he's pretty much using this explosive energy within him that's like tearing his body apart by using it because it's just so much. and it's just the perfect mirror of what Deku is dealing with like All for One, especially in the beginning of the series, or One for All. And I just love the parallels, and there's a few moments, especially in the last couple pages, that really took my breath away, and my tear ducts even got a little moist. I know not everyone loves that word moist, but neither does the ground after Bakugo landed on it, because it's all bloody. The attack didn't go very well. It's just oh man, what'd you guys think?
I want to focus on what you said about the parallels between Bakugo and Deku here, because I have a lot of very mixed feelings about this, because I appreciate that like Bakugo is sort of respecting Deku here and being like, oh, must be how you felt, right? Like breaking your body to fight these bigger foes and things like that. But at the same time, like Deku breaking his body to fight never really had any negative consequences for him. Despite everyone being like, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's bad. If you keep doing that, there will be dire consequences. No consequences ever appeared for Deku. Consequences are appearing for Bakugo instead. And it's like, why put the consequences on Bakugo? Bakugo has never fought this way until this point. And, the first time he does it, he just immediately dies. Like... it's just very.
there it is.
Yeah, it's just very frustrating for me. Like, I think it's a good death, and I think it's like a powerful death. But at the same time, it's like, why didn't it? I think it would have hit harder if Deku had had some permanent consequences for the way he fought, or if Bakugo had started fighting like this earlier, instead of fighting like he normally did, which was actually with a lot of intelligence and strategy.
Well, I mean, Deku did like take a lot of damage to his hands and stuff, to the point where we had to switch to a mostly kicking based style for a while there. So I mean, it's not like he hasn't had any. I get the feeling from the description, and maybe this will be clearer in the official translation, that perhaps these spheres of nitroglycerin or whatever that have been building up, maybe that's been going on the entire time he's been using his quirk. And so that's why it went so badly, trying to force it this time, is that there were just so many of them built up from years of using that quirk.
And also, too, I mean, when Deku was first, getting hurt while he was using his quirk, it was always... He was able to force it into one area. Like, that's actually my favorite Deku, like, form of Deku, is like when every single time he used One for All, he would hurt himself. And he never went all out and like hurt himself on a crazy scale until much, much later. So I guess that's where the difference is, at least from me. Like, I kind of felt like it was... this whole Bakugo thing was Bakugo trying to do it all at once, when it's been a gradual thing for Deku. Like, Deku was doing it in his fingers. You'd have to do one finger. Oh, that one's broken. Next finger, broke it. Next finger, like that type of thing. And Bakugo's like, I'm just going to do it all at once. And it kind of...
I don't think that Bakugo is really like, oh, I'm going to do it all at once, because the description of his technique is about Cluster Bomb, which was a move where he concentrates his sweat into tightly packed spheres and then sends them out. And that to me doesn't seem like he's like, oh, I'm going to, it doesn't seem like that move sort of has the intention of destroying his body. It's just an unforeseen side effect. And and that's even acknowledged, that he didn't anticipate this when he devised it. I mean,
I don't know, to counter that, he kind of is walking away from Best Genius and just like, take care of everyone for me. Like, he
Yeah,
was,
but I feel like
You know something's happening. Yeah.
like I read the sort of take care of everyone for me as like he anticipated dying to Shigaraki here, right? Like he's going up against a villain who's very powerful and stuff. I don't think that he anticipated, oh, I'm going to basically kill myself with my technique.
yeah, that's fair
And that-
enough. I you know, I kind of. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I was saying in the previous podcast too. I was hoping that we were going to see like a kind of a leveled up Bakugo. And I just got to say too, it's a shonen, so it seems very likely, and I think it would be fantastic if if Bakugo is actually dead. It seems very likely, especially because we got a panel of like his heart being damaged, and hearts are not supposed to be damaged. Once a heart's damaged, it's pretty much game over. And the only things that could save him is, I think, Erie's power, or if Nurse Lady just randomly appeared and kissed him on the cheek. But I don't see the latter happening. But we have a lot of question marks around Erie's power right now, especially with it's been teased that possibly All for One wants it or has already attained it somehow. But yeah, I think it would be great thematically, and we've even said consistently, especially in our earlier discussions, that we just didn't see Horikoshi like killing one of his young student characters. But here I am looking at a panel of a pretty large wound in Bakugo's chest and blood all over his All Might card, which I loved those pages too, of him pulling that out and just kind of having that moment of thinking about like All Might. And we get that adorable panel of Kid Bakugo and Deku like getting their cards and looking all happy, and it just really tugged the heartstrings, followed by his heart exploding. And I mean, are you guys pretty safe to say that he's dead?
I don't know. I'm really hoping it is, but there's just been so many instances where heroes have supposedly died and then they come back stronger than ever. And I'm not going to hold my breath until a few issues have, like, a few chapters have passed. Like, if he's not back by the next chapter, I'll probably feel like it's more definitive. But at this point, like, I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer, but I've been let down a lot in that regard. Like, where it's like, okay, there's a death, a meaningful moment, and it ends up being like, oh no, it was just an excuse to power up. So
yeah, right.
A little bit of that in One Punch Man recently as well, and it did indeed get reversed. So I have my concerns about it potentially being reversed a little ways down the line, but I don't know. I feel like the detail here is pretty indicative, especially with that little flashback. Like, these are all, as they say, death flags. These are all things that you do when you're killing off a character. So it looks pretty real.
Yeah, and One Punch Man being like a gag manga at its core, like, makes the incident you're referring to play a lot better in my mind than like it in My Hero, which is, you know, it's a typical shonen battle manga basically, right? Like, and sure, superhero comics in general have sort of death is a revolving door, you know, no character's really dead, but I mean,
wait till we get to the multiverse of My Hero Academia.
Yeah, All for One stands for all of the universes for one character.
Wow.
It's just a crossover with the Jet Li, the One movie, and My Hero Academia.
Oh man, I'm so glad somebody else brought that movie up. I look forward to any opportunity to bring up Jet Li's The One. But yeah, I'm very curious if this is the end for Bakugo. Like, I feel like this would be the perfect time for them to jump over to another battle. Also, keep this suspense up in the air.
No.
Maybe jump over to Deku after this. Because Deku showing up and Bakugo being dead and possibly everyone else being knocked out or something would be a pretty exciting plot twist. But it just, after this happened, I was just, kind of going over what this whole battle has entailed, and just to think that like Shigaraki is still being nerfed. Like he's still not using any quirks. So I mean he's this ridiculous already. I just can't imagine what it's going to be like once he's not having his quirks turned off. I just they're building it very well. So I think it'd be a great moment for them to jump over to what Deku's doing. Or it would honestly be a breath of fresh air if we went over to Toga and stuff like that. Because I feel like this was, as big and dramatic as you can get in this series so far. Because I mean, it's like the first major death of like a huge major character. The only other character I can think of that had like a very dramatic death was Night Eye. Was that his name?
Yeah.
Yes or Night Eye.
Yeah, and that was a while ago.
I mean, which is really why I wanted this to have more build up to it than like. I think I would have been a lot more okay with this death if like any of the elements that actually contributed to it were built up for Bakugo, like before this point. Because I don't remember. I mean, sure, his new technique was talked about, but there was no sort of mention that it was destroying his body. There was no sort of like, and sure, he got incredibly injured in the fight against Shigaraki, and it did seem like he could reasonably have a chance of dying against Shigaraki. And I would have been fine if Shigaraki was the one to kill him. It's just like, I don't like that the elements behind the reason for him dying were not really built up in my mind.
I mean, if any character's gonna push themselves too far and die as a result of it, it really seems like Bakugo's the one, since he's just 110% at everything, that's gonna get you eventually.
Sure, but like make that don't have it be an unintended consequence of the move then, right? Have that be something
that's what makes it so ironic. Oh, that's what I mean.
I mean, I don't know. It's just the unintended consequence thing just makes it it just undercuts it for me. Like I feel like there could have been a lot of ways to do this better in my mind that like felt more. It felt better for the character, like for sending off the character, but it being sort of unintended. Like sure, it's like kind of ironic, but I feel like I don't think Bakugo's death should be treated like ironically here. In the way that it's being presented. So, I think they could have done it where, like, Bakugo is feeling the throbbing in his body, and he realizes, like, oh, wait, this thing is killing me, and then he presses forward anyways, which it would have been very easy to present it that way. But, like, instead it was just like, oh, suddenly he's just dead. He didn't intend it for this to happen, but it happened, and he just goes out this way. Like,
so are you insinuating that his power is the thing that killed him? Because I definitely got the impression.
Oh, his power is the thing that killed him.
Oh, I figured it was Shigaraki's blow to his chest.
No,
maybe that set off the little things in his body. I don't know. It's possible.
No, it says
nitroglycerin is famously like very fragile and likely to explode at the slightest jostling. So
it says
that would make sense.
It says, looking for victory, kept accumulating spheres inside these glands, discussing Bakugo using his power, which caused the spheres to disperse throughout his body in search of an outlet. And so, like, basically the detonations were going out off inside his body, like, repeatedly, and then it shows his heart just exploding, not, like, before anything else happens. And given that it shows his heart exploding, like, pretty much right after, they do show the whole, like, him seeing All Might and being like, I wish I had gotten you to sign my card thing. But, like, it basically happens right after, the whole explanation. Like, Shigaraki does shout "die now," but they don't actually show an impact. They show his heart exploding, and then they show him fighting. So, like, to me, that reads that the explosion was mainly caused by Bakugo himself, and not, like, Shigaraki and stuff. Especially because it seems like it's coming from inside the heart.
Yeah. I think it's kind of both.
That's what I like about it. I mean, if that is the case, because I saw it as him, it being too much from him and him dying as a result of it. I mean, that what makes his death just so intriguing. If it is a death, really, it most likely is. But because again, I mean, he's talking about like it might not have been intentional, but it's just interesting that he's emulating something that Deku had always done, and it ends up backfiring, and that is the thing that kills him. Especially since this whole time Deku has always been chasing after Bakugo. Bakugo was always like so much farther ahead of him. But then we learn, from Bakugo's confession that he's always been afraid of Deku overcoming him, and now we have that shift where Deku is in front of him, and Bakugo is, emulating what Deku does to catch up, and it ends up backfiring. I think that's pretty well done.
I agree with that. I think it's I really enjoyed it. I think what you're saying makes sense, Ben. But to kind of go back to that impact and stuff too, I with what you're saying, I think it's kind of changed my opinion of what killed him. I think it was both, because of what the explosion's looking for some way to come out. Shigaraki hitting him in the chest gave them a place to come out, so it kind of all exploded out of his heart. But the way I'm reading it is we see the heart, and then the next panel is the impact. Like, it's kind of like we're seeing the damage, and then we're seeing what's caused the damage.
I don't think Shigaraki's blow, like, actually opened up his chest is the thing, right?
Yeah, but the idea is that it's sending the shock wave into his body that shakes the nitroglycerin and causes it to explode, I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
I guess, but I don't think it would be that deep into the heart, though, because the explosion looks like it's coming from inside. I don't know. It just doesn't.
There could be like one of those little spheres that was like in his heart, like maybe they were going through his bloodstream or something, and it was in his heart. And when he gets hit, it's in his heart. The shockwave hits it, and then it explodes and destroys his heart from the inside.
That could be, but I don't get the ordering of the panels. If that's the case.
This is one of the things where hopefully maybe the official translation will give us a little bit clearer, but that hasn't always been the case in the past. So.
Well said.
Yeah, it'll also be like the anime will also probably make it clear as well.
Yeah.
But like, given the ordering, like, I feel like if the blow was what caused the explosion, the blow would have been shown, and then the explosion would have been shown right under it.
Yeah.
As opposed to the explosion being shown and then, him getting punched. If anything, I feel like the explosion in his chest is what caused him to get punched, because before then he was able to evade Shigaraki's attacks somewhat because he was reading his opponent. And then with his heart exploding, that prevents him from doing anything else, and he gets punched by Shigaraki and blown across the battlefield. So.
And to add a little levity to it, I'm just still staring at the panel where, let's take the moment to appreciate like Bakugo's new ability. Like, it made him so fast that it took the big three and Mirako and Best Jeanist like that extra time to catch up to try to stop the blow. So that kind of just adds even more disappointment to like, this is when you pull that technique out, Bakugo. Like, it would have been I think it would have been better if it was like hinted at during the war arc when Bakugo was trying to save Deku, and it was one of those it was another panel that made us think that Bakugo was dead because he got impaled by Shigaraki, like weird spike things. And that was another time where they had the parallel, and it was one of my favorite parts of that arc, actually, was Deku was about to get killed, and Bakugo, they did the whole kind of parallel of my body just kind of moved on its own. I've never moved faster than at that moment, and he like pushed Deku out of the way to get impaled. That would have been an awesome moment to kind of hint at this power, I feel. Like, if while they were healing him, they're just like, weird, like, he's been impaled, but a lot of this damage seems to be from himself, like projecting himself from damaging. Like, that would have been a great moment to kind of tease this.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think if we just had some sort of setup to this beforehand, then I think it would have made this moment a lot better, a lot more impactful. But as is, it just sort of feels like it comes out of nowhere, even though Bakugo's death does not, if that makes sense. Like, and that's my issue with it. Bakugo's death has been like reasonably foreshadowed up until this point, but the cause of death just sort of came out of nowhere, and like it could have been very easily set up, and it just wasn't. And I think that's, I honestly think that might just be Horikoshi like rushing through, because the chapters have been good, but like Horikoshi's trying to end the manga by the end of the year, and so
which is still wild.
It's definitely sped up, that's for sure.
Yeah, that, or I mean, I do appreciate like spontaneity in manga. Like, I don't know if it'll work. It would have worked here for me. Like, I like some problems I've had with other manga. I won't say anything, name names, but like while everything is always connected and something that's happening now has to be directly related to something that happened before, I kind of like this idea that he completely lost control of it. Like if it's something that he's been working on and then he still dies, it's like, oh, well, that's, you should have worked harder type of thing. But this is like something that's like, I'm just going to do this now, and it fails. Like it just shows, kind of goes to his character that, he just doesn't always think. He's like, I'm going to do this now. He thinks in the moment.
Well, no, but Bakugo has been one of the most strategic characters in the series, right? So I don't think that necessarily goes along like.
Well, I mean, he's strategic, but I don't see him like planning extensively like Deku always had. Like I've always thought that Deku was more like thoughtful in how he puts everything together. Like everything is very, very layered in how he plans things, and Bakugo's like it's
spontaneous. Like he's brilliant with spontaneous decisions, but
he is impulsive. Like I just see Bakugo more as impulsive. Like he gets that idea in his head and it's masterful, and then he does it. It's like that. I just don't see him as like this guy that plans and stews over stuff.
I feel like that might be the impression given by his personality, but in his fights, like I feel like he mainly is just he is very thoughtful in his fights. I think. During the fights, yeah. I think. Oh yeah, definitely.
He's definitely got like a good like innate tactical thinking. So it doesn't come across as like a very thoroughly thought out plan, but his instincts on tactics are good enough that in the moment he can come up with pretty decent plans.
One theory I've kind of had too that you guys have helped me realize too is maybe he's had this in his back pocket, but it's such a glass cannon sort of technique because as it's proving here, if he takes like one good hit while he's circulating the nitroglycerin through his bloodstream and controlling where the output's going to be to boost his speed and everything, one good hit is going to cause it to ignite in him and kill him.
Which, I would be fine with that as well, but instead of Horikoshi going that direction, he explicitly says it was an unintended consequence of using the technique.
Good point.
And like I think it would have potentially resonated more if it was like if Horikoshi said Bakugo knew that the technique could have this result, and yet he chose to take the risks anyways, and they just didn't pay off. And I feel like that would have also been a much more powerful way to do this rather than, oh, he just didn't know. And then it happened.
Well, he is still just a kid. I mean,
yes, but like,
But then again,
I feel
he's
like
a kid trying to be the #1 hero in the world.
yeah,
It's a
I
weird
feel
point
like
to pull out the he's a kid thing when we've been treating them like not very much like children this entire time.
yeah,
Just
and
pull
I
it out
feel like
now.
pretty much every main character in the series has not acted like a kid for some time, with the exception of maybe Mineta.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it's just like, I mean, you can make justifications for like Horikoshi doing what he did here, but I mean, honestly, they just feel sort of like excuses to me, and it's just like because there were so many easier ways that, or not easier, but like simpler ways that he could have just done this better, and he just didn't. So.
I mean, that definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, I guess just from my perspective, I've just always seen him as this overly tragic character, and this just adds to that. Where just it wasn't glorified. He didn't get what he wanted. He's falling behind Deku. He's never going to catch up. And then we have this. It just, I don't know. I think it just adds to his whole persona as a.
I mean, I think he's always been a tragic character, but not like he's been tragic, and this definitely is tragic, but this isn't tragic in the way that he's typically been tragic, if that makes sense. I know I overused the word tragic there, but like it feels like he's been tragic in like a sort of so basically his whole goal is to like be the best hero and surpass Deku, and that's what he's playing into here. And the tragedy of that comes in like he's not the main character, and so he's not going to surpass Deku. And Deku has, one for all and all that stuff, so he can never like actually surpass Deku. But wouldn't it have been more tragic if like he? Oh wait, did someone? Oh no, we lost Steven. Oh.
Oh, he'll be back. He always comes back. The person I
was trying to convince with my argument.
Oh. Well, I can. We can go to another part of this if you want to hold that thought, because I definitely highlight another one of my favorite bits of this chapter.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as I said, anything with Lemillion, I'm a big fan, but I just loved that we got the well, I'm going to go ahead and pronounce the fan translation, the cornucopia combination plasma cannon. Steven's back.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was so funny. Like, I was like saying this long thing, and then there was like I stopped, and there was like a long silence. I'm like, wow, what I said really fucked, I guess.
I stunned everyone.
I was trying to respond to your thing, so I was going on a long rant of my own, and I guess none of that got through. But yeah, I mean, basically my argument, like, or what I was responding to you with is that like. Yes, it's tragic, but I feel like there were other ways to make it more tragic in a way that aligned with Bakugo's character better. And it felt like this was sort of like I don't even know, because I mean maybe Horikoshi was doing it for shock value, but like I felt like he could have done it in a way that wasn't for shock value, and like shock value is fine to have in fiction. Like it can generate reactions, as it clearly has, but like at a climactic moment of a series, sending off a major character when there are very easy alternatives instead of just shock value for providing a reason for his death, like I feel like it's just a cop out.
Oh man.
Or maybe just not the right decision to make at that time. But
I liked it. I think it's kind of one problem we've consistently had with the series, that we've even brought up in other podcasts, is just like, this felt rushed. This could have been better. There's just so many characters going on that he's not able to like focus the time on the characters that need that emotional punch. But yeah, I don't know. I've been consistently wondering how Bakugo is going to fit into the end of this series, and if this is his death, I think it's just going to set up, Deku showing up and it fueling his rage for this. But we still
I have a crazy theory on that note.
Oh well, this might lead to that, but we still don't know what Deku's final power is, and it might just be you can heal people by giving them some of your life force, and then he heals Bakugo, which would be, especially at this point after fresh off this chapter, it'd be like, oh well, that would kind of suck, but.
Yeah, then Baku just goes up to All Might and he's like, "Oh, can you sign my card?" And that's the end of Bakugo's character arc.
Credits.
Well, Carlyle, you made a pitch earlier today. Yeah.
Yeah. So my speculation here is based on the way that this is portrayed here. We see Bakugo is talking to this spectral All Might. It's the same spectral All Might from the vestige that's inside One for All. The only person who has ever seen this is Deku, or somebody who is wielding One for All, as, say, Bakugo did in the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
But he kind of gets the power back to Deku, and we don't really talk about it again, so everybody thought it was non-canon. But what if it is canon, and this is going to provide a vestige of Bakugo inside Deku, the opportunity for some emotional connection at the end.
Oh, that's dope.
Gurren Lagann style.
So Deku busts out the exploding sweat in the
Something
end.
like that, yeah.
That'd be interesting.
I like the fact of of them being able to communicate, like Bakugo as a vestige, and for Deku, so they can have that kind of goodbye moment. Not a goodbye moment, but they could actually.
It would be kind of.
Yeah, that I really like that. That would be really cool if that happens. I'm down for that.
Yeah, because I'm no heart surgeon, but I mean, taking a blow to the heart, I don't think Bakugo would last long enough for Deku to get there and then to have a heart-to-heart conversation for final words. But I had the same thought too, man. When I saw the panel of Vestige, Smoky, All Might, I was like, well, to our knowledge, other than the non-canon movie, which I think they've gone out of their way to say it wasn't canon, but this the crazier things have happened. They could just be like, never mind, we changed our mind. It's totally canon.
They did say that the first one was non-canon, and then we've started talking about Melissa Shield, and she even shows up in team-up missions. So, we've had this kind of stuff transfer over before. It wouldn't be the first time we changed our minds on movie canonicity.
Maybe it's all non-canon. Team-up missions aren't canon. How deep does the non-canon rabbit hole go?
This isn't canon. This whole story is non-canon.
Yeah, next chapter will just be like, oh, Bakugo isn't actually dead. His death wasn't canon.
Right.
Also One Punch Man.
All right, it just goes back into Bakugo's head, and he's just like, okay, that's what happens if I don't go right.
Yeah.
Which would be very anticlimactic. But yeah, I was wondering, without the second movie being canon, how is Bakugo seeing this vestige? Is it just him imagining this in his brain, him reminiscing his final thoughts before getting hit? Is his life flashing before his eyes or something like that? I don't know. I think we'll get more answers with time, obviously. If he gets up and he's super powered with the power of All for One, or something or One for All, then that would, kind of lend more to that. But if he really dies and nothing else comes of this, then it was just all in his head, and I don't know why he would view All Might that way, rather than, if it was just all in his head, it would probably be, full form All Might, or even skinny version of All Might. But
yeah.
So there definitely seems to be something there, because why would Horikoshi, animate it that, or draw it that way? So
I think there's one thing they could do that would confirm this idea without going past it, and that would be, we saw when Deku was in the hospital that All Might could kind of feel his vestige and what was going on in the One for All realm.
Okay. I'm glad you finished that sentence.
He could kind of overhear that just via the vestige. So if All Might who is way back in the base, reacts to Bakugo's death in some way, even if he doesn't necessarily know exactly what happened, that would probably be a good indication that
there's a connection.
It's real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And we honestly haven't seen where is All Might supposed to be right now? Because I know he was like at the like headquarters, which I thought wasn't it UA, and that's where they are right now. It's like a fortress of UA. So shouldn't All Might be in this area?
I think there's a different like base of operations they were using.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense. But yeah, we haven't seen All Might in a while, and we still haven't gotten Night Eye's prediction that he would be dying a brutal death, which I still feel like could happen. I think it'd be kind of weird that all this stuff happens and the end of the series is All Might just standing there all skinny, putting his thumbs up, just like, good job, everybody. I'm so proud of all of you. Like, I just feel like his death has so much potential for mucho drama. And so I've been actually expecting that ever since like season 1, to be 100% honest. I thought All Might was going to bite it pretty early on, but here we are. And I'd be very... it would be weird if Bakugo dies before All Might.
Star Wars inspired thing to do, to have him die off.
Yeah, exactly. A very hero's journey sort of thing.
Like it's just interesting. Like you bring up All Might too. It's like something that I've been waiting for, and that I always felt duped on. It was during the whole arc when Deku was going. It was like the dark vigilante thing, where he's becoming all dark and bloody and stuff, and All Might is following him in his car, and at one point All Might's car crashes and he gets like surrounded by like these goons, and it's like, how, like, he's a really weak dude, and it's like, how is he going to get out of this? And we see, like, the last time we see him is he has this look in his face like he's getting serious, like something's about to go down, and we don't see what happens ever, and then all of a sudden he's fine. And like a few chapters later, it's like, what? I've always wondered like what was going on.
I remember I think he just rolled a D20 and rolled a 20 on Intimidate. But if I remember correctly, he did essentially do that, where he just like came out and people were like, "Oh, let's get this guy," and then I think he just like looked at them seriously and then maybe flashed his All Might like form for just a second.
He didn't do that, because I remember I had to like. I read through it a lot because I wrote a pitch on it, and like it was just always, he didn't transform or anything. Like he's like still in his really weakened form.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
which I thought was always interesting. It's like, what happened? Like, what? I wanted to see what happened. It could have been like a really big redemption moment that we missed.
Yeah. I think. I mean, the only reason that I think they're going to keep All Might around at this point is he has still something to do. And I honestly, like, he had a pretty good connection with Bakugo too. So maybe we'll see All Might in the next chapter. We haven't seen him in a long time too, so that'd be another great thing to jump to kind of get a reading on what he's doing and kind of how things are going on in the entire battlefield. But another thing about this chapter I definitely wanted to bring up to Stephen, after you disappeared for a second, Ben was just like, "Oh no, that's the person I wanted to convince with my point." So I was like, all right, well, let me bring up another bit of this chapter I really liked. Anything with Lemillion I like, but of course we got Shigaraki getting blasted with the closest thing we've seen to a Kamehameha wave in this series, and then just to add extra fuel to the fire of Shigaraki, you just got hit pretty hard. Lemillion just appears and punches him in the face as he's getting upset. You need to understand. A blam! And kind of weird paneling there too. Which it kind of is adding to more of my fuel of, I think, that Shigaraki's hit to Bakugo helped cause the heart damage. Is we get the Lemillion punch, and then the next panel is like the after effect of the laser, going across the sky and stuff like that. Normal paneling, you would think, did the punch like do that? and I'd say obviously no, but it's just kind of another instance of an odd series of paneling. But I just love that punch. I love when a bad guy gets just a solid punch to the face, but of course when it's after a big attack and you're just like, oh man, is he going to heal after that big attack? And then the next panel just scrolling down is my boy delivering some hands. So I definitely really enjoyed that. That was another bit about the chapter I definitely wanted to bring up.
Oh yeah, one thing, like, it's not about this chapter, but something that, Ben felt that this whole ending with Bakugo was underwhelming. I felt something in the last chapter was, where I thought it was really awesome when Lemillion. Like, at first it was horrible when Lemillion brings up the whole thing about friendship. You don't understand because you don't have any friends. And then, you're expecting it's going to go down that whole trope of, friendship makes us stronger, and not having friends makes us weaker, that whole thing. But then the next chapter goes into, Shigaraki, like, freaks to flip out. Like, I have friends type of thing. And, and then all of a sudden, it just goes away. Like from that moment on, like, I thought he was just going to completely lose it for the entire time and just start going crazy. Like, that whole mention of friends would just completely unhinge them. But it was only in that moment, and after that, he was completely composed throughout. I
don't know. He kind of.
I'm not sure I'd call him completely composed.
Yeah, because he kind of loses it before hitting Bakugo again.
Yeah, but like he doesn't. Like, it felt like he took quite a few steps back after that moment. Like, he's like completely loses it, and then he's like, all right, I'm going to compose myself now. I got it. Like, of course, like, he gets more serious, but it's like, I always felt like, and if it would have felt like that attack on him not having any friends, which it would in turn, threaten the friendships that he thinks he had with those two people, like, it would have felt much more powerful if he was more affected by it and ended up going on a rampage, and that was like unable to be controlled. So
I mean, I think that's a clever subversion of expectations, and I think that the Bakugo death here, I'm not sure necessarily. So this ties into my complaint that my complaint isn't with Bakugo's death here, but it's with the way he died. I think the way he died is definitely like kind of a subversion of expectations, and that ties into the spontaneity thing, but like it's not really a subversion. Like, generally when expectations are subverted, it's for like a reason, right? Or it's just bad writing, because there are definitely badly written stories that are just like, oh, let's subvert all the expectations and that's all we'll do, and those stories just are not usually very good. But here it's like, there's no real reason to subvert the expectations in this way because you have so many other options available to cause his death, right? And like, the only subversion of expectations here, I think, really is that like Horikoshi didn't actually, use a setup, plot point to like kill him. And I feel like, you can argue like, oh, everything doesn't have to be connected. But I would say that I would like most story developments to not just come out of nowhere, especially when there's, I think I might be repeating a point now, but yeah.
Well, it kind of goes into, you have one of your main characters and they want to go all out at a moment where they think, kind of go into my glass cannon theory that, maybe he has realized that this power has had that side effect for a while, but he didn't want to use it because he understood that it'd have some sort of huge risk.
Which, I'd be fine with, but
we just haven't had that teased at all. Yeah.
Horikoshi explicitly tells us that he did not know about this. This was an unintended consequence. And maybe that is just a fan translation issue. But, like, if it is truly an unintended consequence, then I take a lot of issue with it because, like, it,
But he is... I'm sorry, no, go.
No, you go.
Oh, no, yeah, this is fun. No, I guess I just keep on going back to the fact, like, yes, he is a brilliant fighter, and he's able to, think ahead in milliseconds almost. But at the end of the day, he is still a hothead, and I just feel like the fact that it is explicitly stated that it was an unintended consequence is just, I don't know. I love it. It's I just think that sometimes you can't always
it kind of lends to the idea that just like Bakugo's always been that cocky guy to know what's going to happen next, and this is one of those instances where something unexpected happens and it backfires.
But
on
I
him.
mean,
and also too, we'll just really quick, last time when he was fighting, he was saying, "All right, we're going to do a teamwork type of thing," and he everyone's like all of a sudden, "Oh my god, Bakugo wants to do teamwork? What?" And then he ends up, fighting all by himself. There's this whole thing where it's like I just think at the end of the day, he has been growing as a character, but everything about him is I'm going to explode stuff, and he just goes for it.
Well, no, but I think the point of his character is that he's a subversion of a character who would typically be just, I have explosive powers, I'm gonna blow stuff up. Because Bakugo, I don't think, is generally like, I'm just gonna explode stuff. Because even though he fought on his own in the teamwork battle, again, he fights very tactically. He may have a very explosive power that could easily be used very simplistically, but he generally doesn't use his powers that way. And that's part of what makes him such a fun character, is that he, kind of is a subversion of a lot of tropes or a lot of expectations that you'd have for a character in his position. So I don't necessarily...
This is kind of a very Vegeta thing to do, to be like, well, I'm never going to be able to measure up, and now it's time to die.
Yeah. I guess, Bakugo is the series Vegeta confirmed. But I don't know. I generally think he's been a good subversion of that sort of thing, and this sort of nope. And I don't necessarily think that is satisfying to me, if that is the explanation.
Yeah, I guess it's just very good. I guess the way I look at stories, or that when I enjoy them, is that I always look at it from the point of view as, life happens. Everything doesn't have to happen for a reason. Everything isn't deterministic. Just sometimes things just don't work out. And I guess that's why it really resonated with me this moment, at least, because it's it's supposed to be this grand thing where it's we expect all these different things. He one of the things you were saying is that he is powering up or whatever, and then he realizes, oh my god, I might blow up, but I'm going to keep on going anyway. But instead, it just doesn't go right.
Well, I like stories like that as well. But I do think that I like stories that are consistent in their themes and thoughtful in what they're actually doing. Because you could easily make a story where it's just random character just has a heart attack and dies, because things sometimes happen like that in life, right? But if it's not actually done in a satisfying way, then I don't care that it's that's a unique sort of thing that happens, because that happens in life. I when I look at stories that I want them to actually be doing things intentionally, and and I don't think that this death was done in an intentional way. If you're going to pin it on sometimes things don't go your way, then make that more a part of the themes of Bakugo's character arc or something. Don't just have it show up suddenly here at the last moment.
362 chapters
in.
in.
And then not tie into his character whatsoever.
I guess that's one of the reasons why I've had trouble getting in, name dropping One Piece. That's one of the big things I have with it, is that everything is connected, or that everything has a purpose, and it just always feels very structured in that type of way. And I get when you write like that, you have to put an insane amount of thought behind it. You have to be okay, this character is this type of a person, so this and this can happen, or this and this and this and this can happen. And then when you add other variables, it just gets that more intricate. But when you stick with that same theme, it becomes like, wow, that's masterful writing.
See,
it's just like sometimes it gets, I guess it's just a taste thing. Like,
ironically, and I don't want to talk about One Piece too much, but ironically, I think One Piece is a series that actually throws in unexpected moments that go not according to plan or not according to what you'd expect, like in a very good way. But it just does it in a way that like it happens and you were not expecting it whatsoever to happen, but like looking back, you can see the seeds for it laid. And maybe not in the same way as just, character randomly has a heart attack, but like it does do some very unexpected things, especially with what Luffy's actions entail.
So I have a quick question. Like, so I guess with me, I'm just focusing on my hero. Like my whole thing, like I guess just the way I perceive him as a tragic hero, as that's what makes it make sense to me. But I'm guessing you're not focusing so much on the tragic hero aspect. There's something else that you feel.
No, it's like I still think he's a tragic hero, right? But like I think that he could have been a more tragic hero. The moment could have been more emotionally resonant if like the tragedy was actually related to, like, tragic heroes typically, their downfall comes from a tragic flaw, right? Like Hamartia, right? Someone's too prideful and that caused them to go too far. Someone is too vain. Here, it wasn't a tragic flaw that did Bakugo in, although Horikoshi could have easily made it Bakugo's tragic flaw that did him in. Like,
sure, that's not the case, though, because, I mean, right here at the end of the last chapter and the beginning of this chapter, we have Vestinus telling him, okay, it's time to sit out, and he says, no, I'm not going to sit out, I'm going to keep fighting, and that's what gets him killed.
And he also tells him to stop. He's like, stop, don't go, Bakugo.
Yeah, but you could have just made it be more explicit. Like, you could have had it actually tied to the fact that he kept, fighting even though people told him not to. Where, like, it could have actually been something caused by the fight itself, whereas here it doesn't feel like it's caused by the fight itself. Here like, there's no way Bakugo could have anticipated this, is basically what it's saying, right? And, like, it wouldn't it have been more powerful if, like, Bakugo fell to a blow that he could have anticipated going into this battle, but he chose to go into the battle anyways, and that's what cost him his life, right? Like, that would be more tied to a tragic flaw to me than just like, because he kept fighting, something that he could not have predicted happened, and that's what killed him, right?
Yeah, it definitely would have been more dramatic if he knew it and he was accepting it. So I agree with Carlyle. I think that's going to be one of those things that the official translation clears up, because we decided to record this one because it was just such an exciting chapter. We decided to record it before the official version came out, but it's going to be on break next week. So chapter 363's discussion is going to be a little bit later on, but hopefully, especially with the official translation and what happens next, we'll get that cleared up. But another thing I kind of wanted to bring up, we're kind of pushing it on time already. But another thing I wanted to bring up too was kind of going back to Shigaraki, like losing his cool, and especially at this point, I think it's just all kind of bubbling up. I mean, when Lemillion told him he didn't have any friends, and we saw that outburst of just like, I totally have friends. They're so real and cool and nice, and you wouldn't know about them. And I just feel like that kind of is like bubbling up more and more and more.
I don't understand.
Yeah. You wish you had my friends. And he's just like, why am I so angry? Why am I losing my cool? And then we get like a really strange panel, and it kind of looks like Gaara's dad. No, it kind of looks like All for One, it's like premium or number one form or prime form that we haven't seen in the series yet. But we did get that Shonen Jump tease of a version of All for One we hadn't seen yet, with his face and his hair back fighting Deku, and it kind of looks like him a little bit with that. So I'm kind of wondering why, of all times, when Shigaraki's like losing his cool, why that fuzzy image popped up. And it almost kind of looks like All for One wearing, it wouldn't make any sense, but it almost looks like All for One wearing Bakugo's like jacket, which wouldn't make any sense if that's the case. But kind of a mystery panel in there for me. I'm not sure if you guys had any thoughts on that.
Wait, so what chapter is this?
The newest one. It's before he hits Bakugo with the thing, but it's right after we get the explanation for Bakugo's new ability, and Bakugo says, "Tell me, Izuku, will I reach you someday?" And then it cuts to Shigaraki.
Oh,
Why am I so angry? Why am I losing my cool against some...
Gaara. I can see that.
Yeah, it's Gaara's dad. Weird multiverse crossovers against some run-of-the-hill heroes that don't even possess OFA, which might be another little seed to Bakugo having OFA. Because if he's like specifically bringing it up, just like, why are these guys causing me so much trouble when they don't even have this? And then say Bakugo gets up after this attack somehow, and they're just like, wait, you do have OFA. But yeah, wasn't that was just another part of this chapter we hadn't really talked about, so I was wondering if you guys had any thoughts on him.
Yeah, that is a mystery panel there. It looks almost like All for One's little life support helmet thing around his neck there, so... But yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that
it's
was
a bling.
Yeah, it was that was a question this chapter threw at us for sure, and then it's just like, okay, don't pay attention to that. Look at this All Might vestige, and you're like, wait, what? Oh, okay. This is drama. This is really drama. And then another thing about the panel too that I just totally alleviates all the drama for me is when the big three and Mirako and everyone's trying to save Bakugo and he's getting hit in the chest with possibly the fatal hit. His blast is like censoring Shigaraki's lower area, and from that sensor there's something jetting out and attacking Lemillion. A very questionable appendage. I wanted to bring up for some levity. It looks like Lemillion is getting attacked by Shigaraki's extra appendage. And it just looks silly. I just wanted to bring attention to that.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
So right below that staticky image in the one where he's like the run-of-the-mill heroes who don't have All for One or One for All, there's a face on the mask right underneath that. Maybe All for One's just gonna like bud off of this weird flesh mound and just develop a whole other body from that.
Weird. Well, and that could possibly lead more into what Deku is about to run into also. It would be really weird if it's just like a bunch of All for One like like amalgamations, which Naruto kind of had a really similar moment later on where they're fighting the main antagonist and they're having a hard time. I'm not going to spoil it 100%, but it's one of those things where they're struggling against this one opponent, and then the opponent's just like, okay, well, I mean, I could also just shadow clone myself and then imbue those shadow clones with even stronger versions if you guys wanted to. And it's just like, oh man, we're already struggling. Like, you're gonna throw that at us, you jerk. And that would be I mean, that's again, if Shigaraki had his quirks turned on, because he still is doing all this without his quirks. Just who knows what sort of terrifying things this creature is going to be capable of. That kind of is everything I had on this chapter. Was there anything else My Hero Academia you guys wanted to talk about before we wrap things up?
We hit most of it.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, this has been one of our longer My Hero Academia chats, and oh boy, it was an exciting one. I've been kind of waiting for the drama, honestly. Like, this has been exciting, final fight kind of stuff, but we needed to lose a characters, for it to really feel like the stakes were there. And this did it. This chapter did that, and I've been way more into My Hero Academia in these last maybe half dozen chapters. There was definitely a few parts where we're just like, all right, guys, another chapter to talk about. Well, let's see. This could be better. This could be better. And Ben definitely feels like this still could be a lot better. But but for me, it good enough feels like an insult, but I thought it hit really hard. And I definitely enjoyed it. But I am not 100% convinced that Bakugo is dead yet. It definitely seems very likely, and if he does turn out to be dead, I will, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. His heart exploded. But in so many shonen things, especially with My Hero Academia, and we have so many people with healing abilities. We have our main hero with a mystery power we don't know about yet. There's still a few ways that Bakugo could get up. But if this is it, it would definitely add to the drama of the series. But it's been a lot of fun talking My Hero Academia, chapter 362 with y'all. As I said earlier, next series is on break next week. And I might actually be on vacation the week afterwards. But we'll definitely be talking more Hero Academia. Go ahead and move into plugs and recommendations. If you enjoyed our chat on Mega Manga Mondays, please check out other Mega Manga Mondays podcasts. We talk about series like One Piece, Dragon Ball Super, Chainsaw Man, Berserk, all kinds of stuff. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Just Google my Mega Manga Mondays, and we're also on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at @MMangaMondays to get all the updates on when new episodes are coming out and stuff like that. But also, I, Jason Hahn, have a YouTube channel called Honzy and Friends. Like to stream cool video games. Currently playing the newest God of War on PlayStation 5, and it is awesome. But I like to stream every Wednesday and Sunday, and I like to do comedic Let's Play videos from time to time. So definitely check that out as well. Steven, any plugs or recommendations, man?
I'll just say that I'm still really enjoying Make the Exorcist Fall in Love. I've been talking about it a little bit. It's on the Shonen Jump Plus app. Been more excited to read it than most everything on Shonen Jump lately. So like whenever, because it's still catching up, but like whenever the new chapters drop, I just like drop everything and start reading. So I'm having fun with that one. And for all the people, Blue Exorcist is still going. A lot of people don't seem the buzz around Blue Exorcist is pretty non-existent, which is kind of sad. But it's a really great underrated series that a lot of fun stuff is going on right now. And I guess the last thing is that I do have that interview at some point later today with Masaaki Yuasa. He's an anime director, and I'll be chatting with him in a few hours about his new movie Inuo that should be coming out in a few weeks. But I was able to watch it last night on a private screener, and it is very good. So look out for that.
Awesome. What else has that guy done?
He directed Devilman Crybaby. He's done a lot of anime films. He even did an episode of Adventure Time, which is
quite
fun.
A range.
Yeah. But one thing I really do appreciate about him is that he has this mindset, like he's influenced by American and European companies and how they work, and that he believes in like everyone having a normal work day. Like he doesn't like how a lot of mangaka are pushed really hard. Like has his mindset where, because he has his own studio, it's like everyone has like a regular 9 to 5. We're not pushing it. If the movie's gonna take longer to make, it's gonna take longer because the art will be better.
Oh, nice.
For so many people, he just seems like a really, really nice guy. So I'm excited to chat with him.
Well, hell yeah. Well, you can check that out on ScreenRant.com. This episode will likely be coming out on Monday, so that should be available to check out that interview there. Ben, how about you, man?
Yeah, so I'll start with a recommendation. I recently read the webtoon Unordinary, which gave me a lot of My Hero Academia vibes, sort of like high schoolers with superpowers in a society where pretty much everyone has superpowers, and the main character does not have superpowers.
Ooh.
And so, if you enjoy My Hero, you might enjoy that as well. I certainly did. It's still ongoing, but it releases weekly chapters. So
is it a manga or?
Yeah, it's on a webtoon, so
cool.
It's free to read, and yeah, very easy to get caught up. And they're very bingeable too, because you just scroll down on the screen, and it's very easy to keep scrolling, because it's one continuous thing. And then before you know it, you're at the end of the chapter, and you're like, wow, there's the next chapter button. But yeah, so that's my recommendation. And then in terms of plugs, I have my own YouTube channel called YGO from Zero, where I analyze the historical formats of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, be sure to check it out.
Oh, very cool. Well, I'm going to have links to all of these plugs and recommendations. But definitely check them out in the comments. Speaking of, Carlyle, got any plugs or recommendations for us today, bud?
Yeah, just still working on Elven Revenue Service, doing script stuff. So we're moving the story along, which is always exciting for me. I tend to look at these manga discussions in from a narrative perspective, and so talking about this stuff with you guys often helps me to work out some story things in my head, even if it's not related to what we're talking about sometimes. So that's always a helpful thing for me to get out of this. If a recommendation, I have some friends that I've made in the visual novel community. They just dropped their demo for it's called The Good People. It's about Irish mythology and fairies, and it's very interesting, and I would recommend you check them out. Their Twitter is Moirai Myths. I'll put you a link for that.
Yeah, send me a link to that. I'll have all that stuff in the description. But yeah, Carlyle, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, has been working on his own visual novel called Elven Revenue Service. Lots of original art and some hilarious. I really liked the idea of. You could definitely word it better, I'm sure, but they're having their tavern audited. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. And the person auditing it is an old love interest. Which, sounds like a hilarious scenario. I'm very excited to see more of that, man. But yeah, check all that stuff out in the description. Check out the links and support these guys, because they're all very talented and deserve to have their stuff looked at. So please check it out. But yeah, that will do for this episode of Mega Manga Monday. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please look forward to the next discussion, because we're excited to keep talking about it, excited to see what happens next. Hopefully they do Bakugo some justice here, and hopefully they make Ben happy. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think that ship might have sailed, because I don't want Bakugo to revive now.
Yeah.
But maybe the official translation will make me happy.
Yeah, we'll see. That'll do it for this episode of Mega Manga Monday. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your time today, guys. Hope you have a good one.